Okay, this is going to be my official prediction to the upcoming fight between Andrew Tate and Chase Demoor. Now, I was going to wait a bit later to do this prediction, but I'm very busy in the week leading up to the fight, so I thought I'd make it a bit earlier. I definitely want to see the face-off that got scheduled a bit later. I might do a reaction to that face-off, but I don't think it's going to change my prediction for the fight. I'm going to make my prediction in this video, and then I might make a reaction to the face-off a bit later. Now, Andrew Tate's obviously a very polarizing guy. His whole image is based on being, a fighter basically. He's got a fighter mindset. He's got a disciplined mindset. He's the type of guy where he preaches, no excuses. Basically, he means what he says as far as, what he puts out there. So in a lot of ways, his reputation is on the line, with him fighting. I don't think that he needs to fight, but I think he's the type of guy where maybe he's proving it to himself that he's still that guy. Obviously he used to be a fighter a while back. From, what you can see with him, he still trains all the time. The only thing with Andrew Tate is, many people haven't seen him boxing. So there's gonna be a lot of eyes on this to see how good he really is at boxing, and especially at this age. And if you look at his content, a lot of his content over the past, I would say, 5 years or so, he's been training all the time. Yes, he's the type of guy that he's obviously a workaholic and he's obviously a gym rat, but he smokes a lot. Rarely you see athletes that can smoke and keep their fitness. There is a thing about Cuban fighters smoking cigars back in the day. Even some notable Cuban fighters smoke cigarettes. There was a great Cuban fighter that fought Lomachenko who won 2 gold medals, and apparently his name is Rigondeaux. Apparently he used to smoke cigarettes. Apart from that, there's not many two examples about people who smoke heavy and still have great stamina in the ring. Now that might affect Andrew Tate if he fights better opposition, but this fight, I think he selected the opponent because, number one, I think he's the biggest guy in the organization Misfits, and relatively, he's a good guy for a comeback fight. What I think my prediction for this fight, I do think that Andrew Tate is a guy that he wouldn't take any half steps in preparation. Looking at both of the fighters' mindset, I've only seen a little bit. I haven't seen the face-off yet, but I had a look at the press conference that they had, and the guy he's fighting, Chase Demoor, he is coming off as, a bit overconfident. I don't think that he's really respecting Andrew Tate's skills. I think that from his point of view, he really hasn't seen Andrew Tate fight someone his size, especially in boxing. And when Andrew Tate used to fight kickboxing, he used to fight a light heavyweight. No, I don't think he used to fight even a cruiserweight, but definitely not a heavyweight. I think that Andrew Tate back in the day, even though he's 6'4", he's a tall guy, he definitely, if he was fighting a heavyweight, he would have fought guys like Buddy Hari, who is probably the best kickboxer ever, in my opinion. Alistair Overeem was another massive guy that used to fight a heavyweight in kickboxing back when Andrew Tate used to fight. So that's one thing, that the size, I don't know how Andrew Tate is going to be dealing with getting hit with bigger guys. Chase Demoor, the guy is fighting, he's a bigger guy, but I've only seen one clip. Everyone's seen that, embarrassing clip of Chase Demoor where he's missing a punch. I think that might have been his first fight, but I'm guessing he's gotten better. This should be, just looking at it, an easy win for Andrew Tate. I haven't seen the betting odds yet. I don't know if it's going to be too short, but I definitely think that this is a fight for Andrew Tate to win by stoppage. I don't think that any other result apart from stoppage would be a victory for Tate. I think that he needs to stop this guy, and he needs to do it in fashion, because, in life, in boxing and in life, the more you talk, you got to back it up. And of course, Andrew Tate is, he's very humble in, I think, his fight, when he's in fight mode, because, I think he's had around 80 fights, so I think he's making the approach that way. I don't think he's a trash talker when it comes to the fight game. Outside the fight game, obviously he's a big trash talker. That's why he has to back it up and he has to perform in fashion, and there really is no other result for him than to destroy this Chase Demoor guy. I think that, he's obviously a smart guy, Andrew Tate, so he picked him for a reason, and he should win in devastating fashion. Now, me objectively looking at Andrew Tate and saying, what he does good, what we don't know that he does good. For one, I don't know if he can take a punch off a very hard hitter, because I think that he has been stopped in his kickboxing career before. And I'm not sure about his defense, to be honest, because, in kickboxing, you can get away with having your hands down. One thing I don't know with Andrew Tate, I don't know if he's going to get tested in this fight, but if he steps up his competition to heavyweights that can really fight, I don't know how he's going to be on the inside, because on the inside, if a good fighter is putting pressure on you, you have to be able to defend yourself, you have to catch and shoot, you have to do a whole bunch of things. So I really don't know. The only videos I've seen of him is fighting smaller guys. So with smaller guys, obviously you can keep your hands down, rely on head movement, and you can fight at a distance. But with a bigger guy that's really putting pressure on you, you have to know how to fight on the inside as well. You can fight with your hands down and, fight from a distance, good head movement, but if it's a good big heavyweight fighter, you have to know how to fight on the inside. Now, will Chase Demoor bring that out of Andrew Tate, where he has to catch and shoot, where he has to fight on the inside and really work hard to get the victory? I don't think Chase Demoor is that good, to be honest. Andrew Tate's got question marks over what he can do, but he definitely has a lot of experience in the ring. Mentally, you would have to say that, you have to rate him very high, just because he's done a lot in his life. He was a fighter. He decided to go into the business world, go into the influencer world, and completely took it over. So it's, just looking at that, he's the type of guy that does what he says he's going to do. And you have to respect someone like that. Chase Demoor, I don't think that, I know he's had a couple of fights, after that debut that, everybody seen the highlights in that he looks a bit embarrassing. But this fight, I really, I don't see Chase Demoor doing anything but getting stopped. I also want to see if Andrew Tate's got, real power, because me just analyzing, and I haven't seen too much, obviously, of him training and fighting people, but I don't know if he has that one punch KO power. I think Andrew Tate's ability is, he's an accurate puncher, and he picks his shot very well. And I think he's a volume puncher. He's going to throw punches in bunches. And that's how I think he's going to stop Chase Demoor. I think he might hurt him with 1 or 2 shots, and then he's just going to throw punches in bunches. He might hurt him with a body shot and then just stop him on his feet, basically. I don't know if he has that concussive power, Andrew Tate, but he's definitely going to get answered in this fight. Obviously, there's a lot of people that want to see his ability, because if he does well in this fight, I'm sure everyone would want to fight him. And I definitely want to see how he'll do against better opposition. This is a comeback fight for him. I don't think that he's just going to have this fight and not fight again, unless he looks bad. But against Chase Demoor, I don't see that happening. I have to have a look at the odds in this fight and, see if it's worth putting money on Andrew Tate for the stoppage. He might be too short. But yeah, I think for this fight, I'm picking Andrew Tate by stoppage. I really don't think that Chase Demoor is a real fighter. He's got size, but that's about it. I don't see his mindset as being a fighter. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what Chase Demoor is made of, because I think that Andrew Tate, you have to take his word that he's the type of guy that means what he says. So if he says that he's ready for this fight, then you have to take his word for it. I really haven't seen anything, with the training, with the build-up, with him sparring guys his size. But in his next fight, I definitely want to see him fight a heavyweight again. I think there's more pressure on Andrew Tate to fight someone good after this fight, given that Jake Paul, who is, another influencer type boxer, fighting a great heavyweight in Anthony Joshua. So I think that if Jake Paul's stepping up to make that fight, and I'm going to do my prediction in that fight as well, but I didn't think that fight would even happen, because Jake Paul is always been safety first in his whole career. But if he's actually going to make that decision to fight Anthony Joshua, then I think that's going to put more pressure on someone that calls himself the top G. You really can't be fighting guys that can't fight. I think if Jake Paul gets knocked out easily, badly by Anthony Joshua, I don't think that he's going to fight for a while, honestly. He might fight Tommy Fury, but I think that Andrew Tate needs to fight someone better. Obviously, the guy who Andrew Tate fights next will have to have some sort of a name. He's not going to fight an unranked heavyweight. But I don't see him just jumping in and fighting a ranked heavyweight, someone like Anthony Joshua. Definitely don't see that happening. That would be bad for his brand. Unanswered questions about his chin, about his skill, fighting on the inside, things like that. So it's a good fight for him to see where he's at, for the public to see where he's at. But yeah, looking forward to that. I might do a reaction, like I said, on the face-off a bit later, just to have a look at the mindsets. But I think the press conference, the last press conference I had, it said a lot. Andrew Tate's basically got the same mindset, but Chase Demoor, from what I've seen, is just overlooking him. And, I've done a lot of reactions for face-offs and boxing fights. So for this one, I think it's safe money to put the house on Andrew Tate.